Hello guys, today I'm making a video about something cultural, something about the city I visited. The city in question is Gwangju in South Korea. It's in the Cholla province. Gwangju is a quite interesting city, especially for me as a German. Gwangju is quite infamous for the Gwangju uprising, which took a huge part in the democratic movement for Korea. So after the Korean War back in the 1950s, Korea got quite military oppressed from the president and the military, and they started to become democratic again in the 1980s and into the 1990s when it finally became a democratic republic. During the time in the 1980s, there were a lot of movements, student movements to become democratic, to get more freedom. And in Gwangju, there was one of the most horrific incidents in this movement. The city is quite famous now for the Gwangju uprising. There are videos, there are Netflix series, there are movies, there are books about it, like Hangang's Human Acts. It's a book I really can recommend. It was quite fascinating to read, but also first a little bit confusing, but I really enjoyed reading this book. And even if you're in Gwangju, you can get a lot of resources. I also got 2 booklets about the Gwangju uprising in English. I don't have them with me, but they're real books. It's everything you need to know about the Gwangju uprising. Let's start with the tour. I'm showing some pictures, talking about my experiences, and I hope you like this kind of video. I went there back in 2023 when I got to Korea for my summer school at Yonsei University, and I took the express bus from Seoul to Gwangju. It's about in 3.5 hours, so it's quite enough. Started with the bus terminal, and yes, as a student I was backpacking to Gwangju, and yeah, the ticket was just about less than 50,000 won for one of those specific express buses. And also those tickets were quite easy to get. You can get those online, or you can get those at the bus terminal for the next bus, which departs in about 5 or 10 minutes. But if you're going by express bus in Korea, you have to be on time, not like in Germany. But yeah, because they announced the bus leaves in this kind of minutes, and then the bus leaves, so you have to be there before. But there also can be that the previous bus is still there, so you have to wait. So yeah, and you check into the bus, so you already see it shows your seat reservation, your assigned seat, and it locks you in, so everything is automatically so convenient. Also, if you're traveling by express bus, you have at least one stop at one of the rest areas, and the Korean highways, the stop is mandatory, and you have time to go to the toilet, get something to eat. Korean rest areas at highways, they are also a complete interesting experience. They have a lot, especially food and so on, but you can buy almost everything. Like, I also had a problem. My phone was about to die, and sometimes you have outlet in your bus, sometimes not, and I was happy that I found power bank at this rest area. It saved my life there, and it's a complete different experience compared to the German rest areas and the highways. Something I also enjoy if I'm abroad, especially in Korea, is to watch the news, to practice my Korean skills. And yeah, sadly I choose a weekend with a lot of rainfall. It was a good practice for listening practice for Korean, a little bit unfortunate for me. One of the first stops was the Gwangju Art Street. There are a lot of murals, some statues, and so on. The Gwangju Art Street is more in the downtown of Gwangju. Next stop was the Jeonnil Building 245. The Jeonnil Building, there was a news agency, and during the Gwangju uprising, fight against the martial law during that time, and to inform other cities, other people about what's happening in South Korea. Also publishing leaflets which were against the martial law. So this building, at some point during the Gwangju uprising, they got to the building with a military helicopter and shoot on this building. So you also can see still some of the bullet entries outside and inside, and this building is almost completely an historical site with a museum. Both is in Korean and English. It's quite one of the favorite spots to go for touristic sites here in Gwangju. As I said, it was a news agency, so they have also a lot of printing things, how they printed the leaflets, for example, because they had to use some older techniques because everything was forbidden due to the martial laws and confiscated. Also, almost every city in Korea has their own mascot, so you can also find the Gwangju mascot in the Jeonnil Building. They also have little tourist information in the Jeonnil Building for more information about Gwangju and its surroundings. So I also enjoyed the information about parts of the Gwangju uprising, like how the people suffered from the martial law. They also had experience in this museum. You can print your own words in Korean with the letters. They also showed how soldiers invaded this building and also used this building to shoot other protesting people. They also have a lot of memorial and focus also on arts and a gallery about this topic. In this building, they also focus on what was true and what was false, what was made up from the government. Also, because of the martial law, no information came outside. Here you can see an original picture about the Gwangju uprising with the military helicopter. They also show some weapons used there, so this museum can be hard for some people who are sensitive to this topic. They also showed videos as visual input in form of anime-style movies.
5월 21일 오후 1시 계엄군은 금남로에 모집한 수만 명의 광주 시민들을 향해 집단 발표를 하였습니다. 이로 인해 54명 이상의 총상 사망자가 발생하는 참사가 벌어졌습니다. 계엄군의 총탄을 피해 흩어진 시민들은 곳곳에서 시위를 이어갔습니다. 이들을 해산시키기 위해 계엄군은 무장 헬기까지 출격시켜 광주 전역에 위협 사격을 가했습니다. 어떻게 이런 일이? 5월 27일 새벽 계엄군의 대대적인 진압 작전이 개시되었습니다. 이에 맞서 시민은 도청에서 마지막 항전에 대비했습니다. 계엄군은 전일 빌딩 옥상에 LNG가 있다는 잘못된 첩보로 급히 무장 헬기를 요청했습니다. 무장 헬기가 도청과 전일 빌딩 쪽에 출동했다는 사실은 보다 구체적으로 군 문서에 담겨 있습니다. 탄약 점검 좀 하겠습니다. 네, 점수 7.6km 선멸할수. 자, 여기. 보고에게 사인 좀 부탁합니다. 상공 사격과 장을 보니 광주 상황이 아주 심각한가 봅니다. 어이, 왜 쓸데없는 걸 하려고 그래? 주둥아리 함부로 놀리지 마! 5.18 당시 헬기 사격을 고스란히 간직하고 있는 전일 빌딩을 말합니다. 계엄군의 총기는 무장한 시민들을 향한 자유권 발동이 아닌 무차별적이고 비인도적인 범죄 행위였다. 최초 발포 명령자를 밝혀내 국민에게 사과와 용서를 구하지 않는 5.18 민주화 운동은 아직 끝난 것이 아니라고.
Yes, and also they showed a lot of the bullet marks. They kept it like it was in the originally. And from this building, you can see also this famous place, the square in Gwangju, where a lot of the protests happened, and which is also quite famous on pictures. Also on the building, they have a roof cafe, and in the city, there's besides the archduke also a lot of artistic decorations. So also next to the Chonil building was also the Jinsang Gyumyeong and the Jaemyong Sokdong, were also places to visit, cultural places and historic places. And in this cultural center, they also focused more on traditional culture of Gwangju, also with experiences like with the body cams, which scans your movements and you have to do certain expressions. They also focused on other cultural specifics. In this case, there was a lot about Asian, South Asian music influence in Korea. Also, they had a huge archive which you could use, but it's a little bit difficult for foreigners to use. Also, around Gwangju, there are a lot of stones and little statues. They teaching about what happened at that site. But Gwangju also has a lot of parks. I also went to the Penguin Village, which is also quite famous in Gwangju. They have a lot of murals, penguin murals in this village, and this village is mostly inhabited by older citizens. And it became quite famous for its penguins. And even there, if you didn't know, one of those K-pop bands, BTS, which is one of the famous K-pop bands nowadays, and one member, J-Hope, is from Gwangju, and Gwangju is proud of J-Hope, so you also can find a lot of murals dedicated to J-Hope there, especially also in the Penguin Village. And they also have snacks there, like the penguin bun. also went to the Gwangju Park and the Sajik Park. Next to it was also the Gwangju Park Gwangju, which was a wooden temple. They have a great view of Gwangju, and it was also a traditional wedding hall. Also in downtown Gwangju there's a K-pop street with features some K-pop artists from Gwangju, especially J-Hope and other ones. There's also the famous J-Hope or the Hope statue with the J-Hope bench. It's a huge fan zone. Next was the Yangdong market. The Yangdong market was also quite famous during the Gwangju uprising, as there also some demonstrants met, and the people there cooked a lot of food for the protesting people to nourish them, to give them strength for fighting back against the military regime. Nowadays it's a traditional market in Korea. Traditional markets in Korea are also quite interesting to watch, and you can also get a lot of ceramics and pottery there, and also some delicious food. Next stop was for me the Gwangju Historic and Folk Museum. There you could learn more about the traditional history of Gwangju and Jeollado, the province, and Namdo, how it's called, who lived there before the Gwangju uprising. Also available in English, but more Korean than English. But it was fascinating to watch, and during this time they had a special exhibition about education in Gwangju. Like, sadly it was just in Korean. But the museum offers a lot of visual exhibitions. It was quite interesting, but it was more historical and traditional. Next to the History and Folk Museum there was the Gwangju Biennale, and also in this area you could find the Gwangju National Museum. It's a little bit different to the Historic and Folk Museum. It's similar but different. In the National Museum there are more about the national treasures and ceramics, for example. For me, the History and Folk Museum was more interesting to watch, but for people who are more interested in the historic of general Korea or the Jeollado province, the Gwangju National Museum would be more interesting. Later, I went to the Namdo Yangto Food Museum or the Kimchi Museum also, but those museums they were completely in Korean. In Gwangju, it's more like you have English there, but it becomes more Korean compared to Seoul. You need a little bit of Korean skills to understand, or you can just look at the exhibits and the English title. Gwangju is nice for touristic, you can go there, but if you really want to experience, to broaden your knowledge, you'll need Korean skills. Next stop was also Jongchun Palsong Street, or also Cheonbyeok Gwaro, where you can also find a lot of murals, also again with J-Hope and an Olympic athlete from Gwangju. And the view there is also fantastic. But the street is quite tricky to find. So on KakaoTalk it's called Cheonbyeok Gwaro. Also you can also find in some subway stations some information about Gwangju, which is quite fascinating. I also went to the military prison, which was one of the places where a lot of cruelties happened during the Gwangju uprising. They took a lot of prisoners, put them in the military prison. Also, soldiers who went against military orders. Sadly, there happened a lot of torture. And the city and the military prison, they have mannequins and they show a lot of things that really happened. It's quite sensitive for some, but it's also quite informative. And it's again more available in English. And they showed also the military prison and how the prisoners are forced to live there. It wasn't easy. There was too much prisoners for the prison. They also showed Jürgen Hans-Peter. He was a German journalist who went to Gwangju to document the protests and inform There's also a movie about his situations, about his experience, his real-life experience called Taxi Driver. You can find this movie on Amazon. They also showed about behind-the-scenes pictures about the film Taxi Driver. Also, they showed how the soldiers lived there at the time. Also, you can see the city hall there. I also went later to the Oilpal Memorial Park and the Memorial Culture Center. There you can also find the names of those people who were killed during the protests. Also, like in Seoul, you can find some walking guides on the street that you have a better orientation and more guidance. It's more convenient for the travelers there. I also went to the Oilpal Road and to the archives. There's more information about the Gwangju uprising. And in the basement they have the taxi from Taxi Driver, the green car, which they also offered a virtual reality experience where you got the VR goggles on and the car moved to the road you were driving. So you had the role of the taxi driver, and there you could also experience the scenes which they experienced there. So they made it 3D. It was not that realistic, the animation, but the experience in all was quite realistic. Also in this Oilpal archives, they featured a German newspaper article Gwangju is a quite interesting place. It features a lot of history. They also cover a lot of sensitive topics. In all, Gwangju is an awesome city. It also has some awesome surroundings like a bamboo forest and so on. So if you have time to visit Korea, I really recommend to go to Gwangju once. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe. And if you want to see another city or another touristic attraction, please comment. So see you again.